and welcome. You're watching We the People. I'm Rishika Badwa. The Air Quality Life Index Report 2023 by the University of Chicago's Energy Policy Institute has sent shockwaves across the country. The AQLI report has essentially measured the impact of air pollution, PM 2.5 levels, or particulate pollution to be specific, on life expectancy. And these findings that I'm about to share with you are from data that was collected back in 2021. The study says that air pollution shortens the lives of residents of Delhi by around 11.9 years. And the life of the average Indian is shortened by 5.3 years. Delhi's PM 2.5 level is 25 times the safe limit prescribed by the World Health Organization. India's pollution level is 10 times that of the WHO safe limit. It is no surprise that the landlocked Indo-Gangetic plain is the most polluted. So if you look at the map of India, what are the most polluted areas? It is Bihar, it is Delhi, Chandigarh, Haryana, Punjab, UP and Bengal. These qualify as the most polluted. So while air pollution is literally killing us, if you look at the finer findings of this study, if at all, there were a magic wand, and somehow, if the PM 2.5 levels were to meet the WHO standards, the study shows that those of us living in Delhi would essentially get back 11.9 years. And if we were to meet even our own country's national standards, it would increase the lifespan of the average Delhiite by 8.5 years. We would live 8 more years if we could even meet India's national pollution standards. So this is essentially what the report says. But at the same time, this is not an India problem. South Asia is the global epicenter of pollution. According to the report, even countries like Bangladesh, China, Pakistan, Nigeria and some other parts continue to remain the worst affected. So this is essentially a South Asia problem as well. India doesn't stand isolated in that sense. But at the same time, China has been successful to a large extent in its war against air pollution. A 10-year action plan that China has put in place, according to a report in CNN, has led to a 40% decline in air pollution levels since 2013 and thus increased the average life expectancy of someone living in China by over 2 years. So on the show tonight, we ask that giving this glaring statistic that we've headlined, which is Delhiites losing 12 years, 11.9 years due to air pollution, are we really in the midst of a deadly apocalypse, or rather an air emergency? Where do we go from here? And can we really look very seriously at this 10-year action plan that, say, a country like China has implemented? And perhaps does that, in a certain sense, give us hope that, things can really change? So I have with me a panel of experts and doctors who will help us understand what this report means for you and me. We also have several members of civil society and NGOs joining us in the NDTV studios who have a lot of questions regarding these latest findings. It's a pleasure to introduce Parthaa Bosu, the Executive Director of EPIC India. This is the India wing of the University of Chicago that has actually authored this report. So he's going to detail out what the findings of the report mean. We have Ronak Sutaria. He's an expert as far as air pollution is concerned. He built Atmos, India's first low-cost air quality network. He's been with us on several shows here on NDTV. We also have Dr. Vivek Nangia. He's the Principal Director and Head of Pulmonology at the Max Hospitals in New Delhi. Dr. Milind Kulkarni, an expert in air pollution. He's authored a book on personal exposure to air pollution based on his research at IIT Bombay. We also have Anumita Roy Chaudhary, the Executive Director of the Center of Science and Environment. Thank you all very much for being with us. It's an extremely important issue. But I want to first come to you, Parthaa Bosu, if you could just break down for us what essentially this report says. And, don't go into the methodology so much, but what does the viewer essentially need to take away from this very damning report?
Thank you, Rishika, and thank you very much for having me on the show. I think while we're discussing India here, as you rightly said, that the highlight is actually the broader South Asia. It's a South Asia problem. What AQLI suggests is that the entire subcontinent, right from Bangladesh, and you said it, and India, Nepal, Pakistan, where nearly 23% of the global population lives, are on top of the 4 most polluted countries. Right? In other words, South Asia continues to be the global epicenter of the pollution, and that is where we live and that is where we should be concerned about. We must see this as a South Asian issue and we might call for a broader science collaboration to understand what is exactly. I mean, we have launched Chandrayaan. How difficult can it be for us to find out what is exactly the problem with this entire Indo-Gangetic plain, and how can we solve this? Because this doesn't seem to be our problem alone. And last but not the least, one thing that is very, very glaringly coming up is that when we remove the natural dust and sea salt and other such measures, dust particles, we can actually see that there is a huge amount of anthropogenic sources which are causing and adding to this pollution. So which seems to be an enforcement issue, which is where, of course, the meteorology and geography has to be taken into account, but enforcement seems to be a massive issue.
One is, of course, whether we're enforcing the current laws properly in the true letter and spirit. And second question, of course, is like the audience members have also raised, what are our new forest laws? I mean, everybody knows that, trees and greenery means cleaner air. So, when you're taking that away, aren't you essentially adding to the problem? I think there's also a very interesting point about indoor pollution. Parthaa Bosu, do you want to take that on? Something that not very many people really talk about, but is a problem very intrinsic to India, which is indoor pollution.
Absolutely. So, Rishika, actually, a large amount of people, number of people actually lose their lives because of indoor air pollution. Actually, it is supposed to be 7 times more a bigger problem than ambient. India, with its Ujjwala Yojana programs and such kind of schemes, has started reducing. So if we look at India as a whole and not urban and rural, then I think programs such as these are actually making LPG or such kind of cleaner fuels available to a larger extent. There is a lot of research that is going on with CSIRs who are looking at cleaner chulhas. I think what is very important is also a bit of personal knowledge, in the sense, like, are we living in a ventilated atmosphere? Are our kitchens ventilated? Do we have that kind of system where the smoke generated or the CO2 generated is already escaping out? I think these things are very important. You see, Dr. Nangia talked about women, and one of the factors that I could think associated with women is also to the kind of things that our mothers and sisters are doing at home, and that is cooking and taking care of the households, and which is actually causing a massive exposure to PM 2.5 levels and as well as some of the gases.